So guys, what's going on? Someone's asked me, how do I think Billy Joe would have got on with Golovkin? Um, if they had fought a couple of years ago, or even if they fight now. I don't know what Golovkin's got left. Obviously, we need to see how Billy Joe comes back after that injury that he suffered. But I'll be honest with you, I think Golovkin, personally, I think the style was all wrong for Billy Joe. And I think we saw with Canelo now, a couple years back, I think Golovkin would have been a massive favourite against Billy Joe. And a reason why I say that, I know a lot of people think that Billy Joe's movement causes trouble and stuff. I think people got carried away with that David Lemieux performance. I think David Lemieux's a good fighter, and I think Billy Joe's performance was great. He completely neutralised him. David Lemieux had very small arms, and I think Billy Joe was able to, like I said, neutralise him, use his movement, use his speed, use his hand speed. I think the reason why that win was so, I wouldn't want to say inflated, not to be disrespectful to Billy Joe, because he's a good fighter, because not many people expected much from Billy Joe. They didn't think he was all that. So when he went in there and absolutely schooled him, people were like, whoa, this guy's actually a very good fighter. So that win got kind of inflated because people weren't expecting much from David. It wasn't the fact that people thought David Lemieux was a killer. We knew he could punch, but it was the fact that nobody really thought much of Billy Joe. It's only the fact that, so that's how Billy Joe got his credit, and you know, people started taking him seriously. Well, this guy can actually fight, you know, because that you don't do that to David Lemieux if you can't fight. However, coming back to Golovkin and David Lemieux are chalk and cheese. Golovkin fought David Lemieux before Billy Joe fought him, and Golovkin outclassed him, battered him, and stopped him. Obviously, Billy Joe wasn't able to stop him, but we know Billy Joe hasn't got the power like that. But in terms of how they would fight, I actually think Billy Joe has a similar kind of style to Andrade. I don't think he's got the pop in his punches like Andrade. And Andrade's a bit more explosive than Billy Joe. But they have a similar style. They rely on slickness, movement, reflexes. They're really good at that. However, I think Golovkin's style would be a problem for Andrade and Billy Joe. I think styles are wrong. I think Golovkin's style is completely wrong for them because Golovkin's really good with his feet, and he's actually better than Canelo. Golovkin closes off the ring better than anyone. He literally closes, and he's literally in front of you. With a couple of steps, he's in front of you. And the thing is with Golovkin and Lemieux, there's a big difference. Golovkin's a very good boxer. He's got very short, sharp shots, and he's right in front of you, and you can't get away from him. And Golovkin drains you, and then he's hitting you with clobbering you with big shots. So style-wise, I think Golovkin was all wrong for, like I said, for Andrade and Billy Joe. I think stylistically, I just think that Golovkin was a problem. I think the feet movement, I think the fact that he cut off the ring so well. I think Billy Joe would have the same problem that he had with Canelo. And it'd be even worse because I don't think Canelo cuts off the ring as good as Golovkin, especially Golovkin a couple of years ago. Golovkin just cut off the ring so beautifully, and like I said, he just wouldn't give you any breathing space, and he'd be on top of you all the time, and you just can't get away from him. He's always on top of you, not giving you any breathing space. Then he's punching you really hard, and he would land. And that's the thing. A lot of people said before the fight that Canelo will be punching fresh air. A lot of the Billy Joe Saunders fans were saying that Canelo will be punching fresh air. And I said, I guarantee you he won't. Billy Joe made him miss a few times, and I would have expected that. But he landed a hell of a lot. And I'm pretty sure he landed a lot more than a lot of you thought he would land. Right? And I did say, I will say this though, Billy Joe was a lot tougher than what I expected. I didn't expect him to have the chin and the durability that he showed. However, I did say that if Canelo lands as much as he did on Smith, that, you know, if he lands as much as he did on Smith on Saunders, this fight ain't going the distance. And although I don't think he landed as much as he landed on Smith, I still think he landed too many for Saunders. And I knew that Saunders hasn't got the physicality of Smith. If Canelo lands frequently on Saunders, he's going to do some damage. And in the end, he ended up breaking his eye socket. Now, you could say that's a freak injury. I do think, even if that didn't occur, I do think he would have stopped Saunders. I think he was starting to get to him. The body shots, even though Saunders was coming into it, but I think he was working very hard to win some of those rounds. Whereas I think Canelo could have upped the pace and just made it very, very difficult for him. And I never felt like, even though Billy Joe was having some success in those middle rounds, I never ever felt that Billy Joe was going to win that fight. From round 1 to when it was finished, I never thought he was going to win that fight. Never. You know, just like when we saw Callum Smith, I never thought Canelo was going to lose that fight. Never. Never, ever. Everybody knows I'm a massive Amir Khan fan. Amir Khan had a lot more success than even Saunders did, and Smith. For me, he was handily winning up until that point. But guess what? I never thought he was going to win the fight. Even when he had the first 4-5 rounds, and I felt he banked all of them, I never felt he was going to win the fight. I always felt Canelo was going to land something. The same way I felt with the Saunders fight. Even though Saunders was doing all right in the middle rounds, I felt Canelo was in control. And I always felt that Canelo's going to land a shot somewhere along the line where it's going to hurt Saunders, drop him. And in the end, that shot was in basically a shot which uppercut that landed and hurt, broke his eye socket. And that's for me, going back to the original point about Golovkin. I feel Golovkin would be the same for Saunders. I just don't think Saunders has enough punching power to keep Golovkin off. I just think Golovkin will cut the ring off, get to him, start landing the shot. See, a lot of you think that Saunders is a really slick guy. Yeah, against not the elite fighters. Against the lower fringe world-class, level fighters, he might be able to. When you go against the elite fighters like Golovkin, Canelo, they find a way to get to you. Look at Marcus Maidana, for example, right? Maidana was a world-class fighter. He didn't have great technique, or he wasn't a great pure boxer. But look at when he fought Mayweather. He found a way to get to him, right? He landed a lot of shots. He landed more shots than most technically great boxers landed on Mayweather. Do you understand? These world-class guys, no matter what technique and how they find a way to get to you. And Golovkin and Canelo, for example, are a lot more technically better than someone like Maidana. If Maidana could land on one of the greatest defensive fighters in Floyd, then Canelo and Golovkin, who are technically much better than someone like Maidana, are definitely going to be able to land on Saunders. That's the way I looked at it. And Saunders is nowhere near defensively, anywhere near in the class of Mayweather. The amount of Saunders fans that I had arguments with, during fight week. One guy was saying Saunders' IQ is like Mensa, like his IQ is on another level. And you watch on Sunday, Canelo's not gonna be punching fresh air all night. Where are all these people gone? Where are all these people gone that were saying that? They've even disappeared. A lot of them have disappeared from Facebook. And now a lot of them have said that, it was a lucky punch. He was winning the fight. They were saying that and talking all that nonsense where really he wasn't winning the fight. He was losing the fight, 5-3. And Peter Fury had Canelo winning that fight. Dave Colwell had Canelo winning that fight. Barry Jones had Canelo winning that fight. Literally every interview that I've heard had Canelo up. The only guy Carl Froch had Canelo up. Roy Jones had Canelo up. Chris Mannix was the only one on DAZN. And a lot of people slammed his scorecard. Peter Fury said that scorecard was terrible. He even went as far as saying that, how could you have Saunders winning that fight? Canelo was dictating everything. This is Peter Fury's words. He was backing him up. He was the aggressor. He goes, how do you think Saunders was winning that fight? This is what Peter Fury's words. And I'm pretty sure he wanted Billy Joe to win that fight. So, like I said, most neutrals had Canelo up in that fight. Saunders had moments and he did well and he made the fight competitive. But Canelo was clearly the dominant force in that fight. And I think anyone that knows boxing knows that Canelo was winning that fight. And even if, you think Saunders was winning a couple of rounds and coming back into the fight. 5-3 might not see that dominant, but the way the pattern of the fight was going and the body language and the, you could clearly see, even if that punch didn't land, I felt like Canelo was about to take over. Especially round 9, 10, 11, 12. In the championship rounds, Canelo was going to turn up the heat. And that 8th round, obviously, as soon as that shot landed, the fight was effectively over then. But yeah, I just think when we talk about Golovkin and Canelo, I just think the fact that when we see those two fight one another and we see how competitive their fights are, I think they're a kind of similar level. I don't think Golovkin got the name and Golovkin got the resume or managed to fight the fighters that, Canelo managed to fight. But I do think Golovkin was on the similar kind of level. He just isn't as accomplished. And I think if Golovkin fought the guys that Canelo fought, I think Golovkin, even if you look at Golovkin's performance against Jacobs and Canelo's performance against Jacobs, they both had a similar kind of performance. It was very close. I actually think both fights were very close. I think Golovkin, for me, they're similar. I believe they're kind of similar. Canelo might have developed and got even better since the Golovkin fight now. But yeah, I think Golovkin and Canelo are similar level, and I personally think that Golovkin would. I think he would have stopped Saunders as well. That's just my honest opinion. I think Saunders is a tough guy and he showed he's durable, but I think Golovkin would be even worse. I think that style matchup is not good. I think for Andrade, I actually think Billy Joe would probably fare better against someone like Andrade. And by the way, I think that would be a tough fight for him as well. But I think that he would fare better. I think he would have more chance of winning that fight than against a Golovkin. Because I think stylistically, I think Golovkin, Canelo, these guys are all wrong because you're not going to hurt those guys. Right? Those guys punch very hard. They're also very good boxers. So how do you win? So I just feel stylistically, I just think for someone like Saunders who hasn't got the power, who's slick, I just don't think he'll be able to keep someone like Golovkin off. And I think Golovkin's got 2 good feet. His feet are too good. He walks you down. And I just don't think you're going to be able to get away from him. And to do what Saunders does for 12 rounds against someone like Golovkin, I just think it would be very difficult to do. I think it would be very difficult to do, and I think Saunders would get stopped against Golovkin, just like he did against Canelo. Because I just think that they're too tough. They're too tough, and they're very good boxers as well, and they punch very hard. So yeah, I would definitely favor Golovkin against Saunders as well. Not to say Saunders would put up a good fight though, like he did against Canelo, but I would favor Golovkin. Just to answer your question, because I know someone was asking, how do I think Billy would have got on? Yeah, I definitely favor Golovkin. But leave your thoughts. Let me know what you think. Do you disagree? Do you think Billy Joe might have pulled off the upset against Golovkin? Leave your thoughts. Leave your thoughts. If the fight had happened, when it was supposed to happen, who do you think would have won? I think it was a couple of years ago where they said Golovkin lost his pen or whatever. Billy Joe said, if it had happened then, who would you have favoured? I definitely would have favoured Golovkin. I think most of you probably would favour Golovkin. But yeah, leave your thoughts in the comment section below. And let me know what you think. And guys, remember to please like, share and subscribe to my channel. I'll see you guys in the next video.